Jay Hill here, interim leader of the Maverick Party. Monday, April 19th was a very black day for our country. And the saddest part is that too few Canadians seem aware or care. I know, I've been saying that about a number of days already in 2021. The majority Supreme Court of Canada decision upholding the insanity of Trudeau's national tax on carbon. Then there was Mr. O'Toole's unveiling his response. It's even worse. He's trying to convince Canadians, especially Conservatives, that it is not a tax. He seems to believe the same as Liberal Cabinet Minister Catherine McKenna. If you repeat a talking point often enough and loud enough, people will believe it's the truth. So he's betrayed his strongest supporters here in the West. It's left to his Western MPs to sell his plan as not being as bad as Mr. Trudeau's. Perhaps he suggested that if they put enough lipstick on his climate change pig, their constituents won't notice that it's a pig, or that his carbon tax or carbon pricing mechanism is not really a tax. Even though consumers will pay more at the pumps, more on their heating bill, and more for anything they use which is created from oil, which is just about everything. There's only one consumer, and no matter where government adds costs, it always filters down to the consumer, just as with the taxpayer. Whether it's costs, taxes, or interest at the federal, provincial, or municipal level of government, there's only one taxpayer. Yep, that would be you. And that, my fellow oppressed Westerners, brings me to the subject of today's video. Most of you may know by now that the reason I decided to become involved in federal politics in 1988 was primarily out of deep concern for the future of my 3 children. Now it's for my 3 grandchildren. 33 years ago, Canada was running massive deficits, adding to our national debt every year. It was one of the main reasons so many people who had never been involved in politics decided to step forward to support, donate, and vote for the Reform Party. We knew then that the country was mortgaging our children's future. We thought we were in deep trouble then, but it was pennies on the dollar compared to what was unveiled in Mr. Trudeau's long-awaited but unaffordable budget. When I was first elected to Parliament in late 1993, Canada was facing a debt crisis. Annual deficits were running at around $40 billion, and our accumulated debt was approaching $600 billion. Compare that to what now faces us. We're told that last year we overspent by a staggering $354 billion, and our debt is projected to become $1.4 trillion. This level of spending fuels inflation, and inflation drives higher interest rates. How many today can withstand even a 1% increase in their interest rate? All told, federal debt charges are projected to double over the next 5 years to nearly $40 billion from $20 billion currently. Imagine what we could do with an extra $20 billion every year. And that is why I weep for my grandchildren and the generations that will follow them. Whether the consequences of this horrendous accumulated debt and the ever-increasing interest on it is a bankrupt nation, excessive taxation, which will destroy any incentive to work, or at least to work hard, dramatically diminished universal social services, or lack of career opportunities, upcoming generations now face a bleak future. And ultimately that means everyone, not just those who elected and re-elected the most unqualified, unprincipled, and unfit person to ever occupy the Prime Minister's office. As for Mr. Trudeau's excuse that his massive uncontrolled spending is needed to help people through the COVID virus, I hasten to point out Canada has faced serious crises in the past. The Spanish flu epidemic of 1918, 2 world wars, the Great Depression of the 1930s, and more recently, the financial crisis of 2008. Government helped Canadians survive those national perils. Trudeau isn't the only Prime Minister to borrow money to help the country face a crisis. He is, however, by far the most incompetent and arguably the least transparent. Where have the billions gone? How much of it was unnecessary? Where is the accountability? It's said that by the time Budget 2021 finishes doling out all that borrowed cash, Trudeau Jr. will have accumulated more debt since taking office late in 2015 than all the previous 22 prime ministers combined over the 148 years since 1867. Think about that and weep for the children. Until next time, stay safe.